Full caffeine. Full caffeine,
so,
full sugar.
Well, I got
people
I
are.
got Powerade.
Okay. Cool. Right. So
product placement. I don't get any money for that.
So we got people rolling in as we speak. Wherever you are dialing in from, please in the chat box do tell us where you are location wise. It'd be great to see the spread. We've got people in Massachusetts, San Francisco.
Ooh, now we're talking there. I like that, Kirk. I like that a lot.
What is Kurt wearing? What is that? Sorry.
Well, but I like how it goes. It goes transparent,
through you.
See right through him.
That's the blue thing. Well, it's my new shirt from Nigeria.
Oh, nice.
Data Science Nigeria just gave it to me this week.
Somebody said, Bill, that's one of your favorite shirts.
I know, it looks like a Bill shirt.
Yeah, I love that shirt. I got to get me one of those. Sign me up for Data Science Nigeria. Tell them I need a double XL.
Okay, well,
I thought you were going on a diet.
That's why I don't need a triple XL.
Kuwait, United Arab Emirates. We got Portugal, Twin Cities, Minnesota. We got Germany, Houston. We got a good spread here. I'm dialing in from not London today, but Slovenia. So.
Wow. Slovenia. Like the Slovenia.
And there is Yorkshire. We have to have a Yorkshire, somebody from Yorkshire to bring it home from the UK. Dialing in from Poland, but from the UK, fantastic. New Jersey, Albuquerque, Columbia, Maryland, Palo Alto. Is that you, Bill?
Palo Alto, Iowa.
If you build it, they will come.
That's right.
Chicago. Okay. Well, I tell you what, people are turning up and tuning in. So I'm going to just do my usual introductions and get the show on the road and start this. Oh,
Peru, love it.
Here we go. Okay, well, here we are. What a fantastic sight I have on my Zoom panel right there. Got John Thompson, Bill Schmarzo, and Kirk Borne. Thank you so much. I wish I had some kind of drum roll there as well for being here today. Listen, a warm welcome to all of you, to the audience, to our panelists, to space people, to wherever you're dialing in from. Thank you for joining us on our third event of what is going to be an exciting, oh boy. Okay, he's putting his hat on.
It's getting serious now.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Oh boy.
So this is the Liverpool. Well done, Liverpool. Liverpool UK is here. This is going to be a part of an exciting 12-part series, and there's a duck on the screen as well. I can see where this is going today.
It's already auguring right into the ground.
John is just stupefied at the moment. Anyway, 12-part series of what is an awesome Ask Me Anything set of conversations. So
it must be Friday, yes.
It is Friday. So this is
Probably
the brainchild of
Slovenia.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. Let's carry on. This is the brainchild of John, Bill, and myself, and we've already, as I said, road tested 2 other events, which has been brilliant. And a load of people sent their feedback and said, we want more. And so we are going to have a 12-month series event. And today's series is all about everything you wanted to know about data science. Right.
But we're afraid to ask.
Yes, but we're afraid to ask. Yeah. Absolutely. So we are also extremely thankful to Pact for being our media sponsor and for the wonderful free book giveaways that they will be doing. And I will be asking a set of questions later on. So be at the ready on your keyboards. There's John's building analytics teams. That's it. You'll get Bill's book as well and a few others. So let's start with a few introductions. I'm going to introduce these 3 fantastic, handsome chaps on the screen at the moment. So John Thompson is a global operational executive who excels at building and managing innovative, growth-oriented data and technology organizations across multiple industries. Now, I hope everybody's listening because all of the clues will be in these introductions. Best-selling author of not 1, but 2 books, Building Analytics Teams, Harnessing Analytics and AI for Business Improvement, and Analytics and How to Win with Intelligence. He's a keynote speaker. innovator in AI, data, and advanced analytics, and he is currently the global head of advanced analytics and artificial intelligence at CSL Behring. Now, none other, the next person with this funny hat on, who looks pretty cool and should be coming from Chicago. I think he does. Bill Schmarzo, otherwise known as the Schmarzo, and affectionately called the Dean of Big Data, is an influencer and an innovator, professor and educator, as well as the author of 4 books. I'm going to do this quickly. Big Data, Understanding How Data Powers Big Business. Big Data MBA, Driving Business Strategies with Data Science. And the forthcoming Economics of Data Analytics and Digital Transformation. Not forthcoming, it's already out. And the Art of Thinking Like a Data Scientist. That's 4. He's an executive fellow at the University of San Francisco, honorary professor at, do I just say NUI Galway or NUI?
Yes.
Anyway,
NUI Galway, yes.
And adjunct professor at Menlo College. He is now the customer advocate, data management incubation at Dell Technologies. I hope I said that right.
You did say that right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now our special guest, and by the way, congratulations, Bill, on that appointment. Fantastic. Our special, super fantastic guest today is Kirk Borne. There he is, drum roll. Absolutely. Kirk is a worldwide top influencer and has been so since 2013 in the area of AI, analytics, data science, everything that you can imagine that we're going to talk about today. He's a data scientist, a global speaker, a consultant, an astrophysicist. I've never met an astrophysicist, but today I have. Huge brain and an amazing chap. He's also a space scientist, big data and data science advisor, TEDx speaker, researcher, blogger, data literacy advocate, and co-creator of the field of astroinformatics. So that's amazing. So listen, as I always do, I present the topic. I then will give you an introduction and context to what we're going to talk about today. So without further ado, again, today's topic is everything you always wanted to know about data science, but were afraid to ask. So interestingly, a little bit of history from me today. I am a history buff, but on other things. So in 1962, John W. Tukey wrote in The Future of Data Analysis, for a long time, I thought I was a statistician, interested in inferences from the particular to the general. But as I have watched mathematical statistics evolve, I have had cause to wonder and doubt. I have come to feel that my central interest is in data analysis. Data analysis and the parts of statistics which adhere to it must take on the characteristics of science rather than those of mathematics. Data analysis is intrinsically an empirical science. How vital and how important is the rise of the stored program electronic computer? In many instances, the answer may surprise many by being important but not vital, although in others, there is no doubt but what the computer has been vital. So that's when we first started to hear about science within the world of data. That was in 1962. And in 1974, Peter Nauer proposed the actual term today that we use, data science, as an alternative for computer science. And in 1996, the International Federation of Classification Societies became the first conference to specifically feature data science as a topic. So back in 1996, they did that. 74, Peter Nauer proposed it as a new name. And we all probably remember, not all of us, I don't know if everybody was around or can remember this paper by Tom Davenport and DJ Patel in 2012, but they published Data Scientist, the sexiest job of the 21st century. That was in the Harvard Business Review. And things just blew up and data science became the hottest job to be in. Everyone from data analysts to statisticians to PhD maths folks latched onto this and changed themselves almost overnight into the star that was the data scientist. Job boards went crazy, but that's not enough. And why are we so excited to have Kirk here today? In March 2009, Kirk and other astrophysicists submitted a paper to the Astro 2020 Decadal Survey, a paper titled The Revolution in Astronomy Education, Data Science for the Masses. And training the next generation in the fine art of deriving intelligent understanding from data is needed for the success of sciences, communities, projects, agencies, businesses, and economies. Recently, however, we have heard about the demise of data science. And, you know, There's much talk about it. And there's a guy called Pascal Pompey who wrote in his blog, The Future of Data Science, and debunking the myth of the data science bubble. And he argues that data science is going nowhere at the moment. But he says that 3 areas back up his thesis. And he argues that these areas will help boost the data scientists for years to come. So that's why we're here today. And the 3 areas are increased commoditization. And he says it's clear that data science work is getting increasingly commoditized. Almost all ML frameworks now come with libraries of off-the-shelf models that are pre-architectured, pre-trained, and pre-tuned. So data scientists, and the thesis goes, data scientists, some people are saying, should not become software engineers. But he actually advocates for this data scientist becoming a software engineering or having a software engineering mindset and going beyond the proof of concept in order to get those projects to deliver continuous value in a well-maintained and monitored production environment. And then the final thing that he hypothesizes about is the risk of automation. So full automation is very unlikely, he says, because in many regards, data science is still more an art than it is a technique. There is a huge gap between the hello MN-ist TensorFlow example and applying ML to a new domain for which no golden data set or known model archetype exists. Now, that's a little short introduction. So we can see data science has been a topic since the 60s. So what does the future of data science look like? I'll leave it to these 3 panelists and you out there listening. Please ask your questions, add them to the chat box of the Q&A, and don't hold back. And without further ado, here is our first question. And today I have a coin. It is a Slovenian coin. It is an old tolar, which has now been replaced by the euro. So on one side is a number, and on the other side is a bird. It looks like a swallow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick off with the first question. The swallow is pro and the number is the con. So will data scientists soon become an outdated profession? John, what do you say? Swallow or number?
The number's the con?
Yes.
I'll go with the swallow.
It's the number.
All right.
Okay.
Does John have the pro and I have the con? I was very confused by what we were picking here. I need Kirk to help interpret this.
Okay, well,
look, we learned all about data integration, mixing different data types. Now you're mixing birds and numbers. I'm confused.
and birds and
No,
numbers,
this is
exactly.
like, holy cow.
I'll tell you what, I'm just going to choose.
I've integrated all kinds of data sources, but never birds and numbers.
John's going to go with the con, and you're going to go with the pro, Bill.
All right.
Right.
So go for it, John. Will data scientists soon be an outdated profession?
And I have the con. So the answer is no. The answer is hell no. All these things are interesting discussions. The first reference I saw to artificial intelligence was in the 4th century BC in ancient China, when an automaton was presented to the King Zhu of Mu, I think it was, and
the King Zhu of Mu.
He promptly chopped it to pieces with a machete. So there's been all sorts of reactions to artificial intelligence. The thing that many of these conversations are missing is that data science and analytics and advanced analytics are arts. At this point, they are arts. We call it data science, but there's very little science in it. Now we have auto ML and we have many other tools and many technologies that will allow automation. But I can tell you that in the data science teams that I have hired and managed, the best people at it are the artistic in how they do it. Feature engineering, we've all heard about developers and how a good developer is 100 times better than an average developer. Well, I can tell you, in data science, a good feature engineering expert is 1,000,000 times more productive than an average feature engineering expert. So, there is no end to data science. I mean, people ask me all the time, when are we going to be done? When are we going to be done integrating data? When are we going to be done with the technology? When are we going to be done with the models? The answer is never. This is never ending. Bill and I have been working together for nearly 40 years. 35 years ago, we left the data warehousing space because we thought it was done. We were wrong. This is never ending. It will never finish. So the art will continue. People who are good at it will get better at it. There will be all sorts of low-end productivity tools that will help people do things. There will be data scientists, citizen data scientists, there'll be business analysts, there'll be operation engineers. Everybody will be doing interpretation of data. Will the data scientist go away? No, absolutely not.
Does the data science become more of a specific defined job working within that ecosystem of players, as you just mentioned there? And will they be targeted as specific tool set or seeing as that algorithms can come from a library? Does that narrow in terms of their scope?
Really depends. That's a very broad question and can be answered many different ways. I mean, you could go with anthropology, you could go with technology, you could go sociology, you could go psychology. I mean, there's no one dimension to that answer. In my book, I've written about how to architect data science teams 3 different ways. In all those 3 different archetypes and 3 different ways, data scientists have different roles. So, how long is a piece of string?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Bill.
John, you ignorant slut. I had to say that. I'm glad I went second. Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
For those folks who don't know the old time Saturday Night Live skit, that was
I am Gene Curtin.
Yes, I am Dan Aykroyd, and it was a great point counterpoint skit on Saturday Night Live, and the pro here is that it is a profession that is quickly losing its gloss. And I think, John, you even mentioning the term citizen data scientist shows us how quickly the uniqueness of a data scientist is going away. We are seeing automation. We are seeing things like auto ML, the proliferation of libraries of pre-built models that don't require building but tweaking. And I was, I teach at Menlo College on Thursday nights. I had my class last night, and we had our first class. And Kirk, by the way, is going to be a speaker on my class and coming next week. And then I got John following in a few weeks after that. So we had a good discussion, and the students were asking, should I become a data scientist? And I said, no. I said, I can't, if you were my children, I would not recommend you do this. I said that, if I think about what it is that you should be focusing your career on, it shouldn't be on data science and things like feature engineering. You should be focused on value engineering. You need to understand to be able to speak the language of the business. You need to be able to straddle the line. And if you think that you're going to make a profession just building, neural network and ML models, you're going to be replaced by specialists who are graduating from vocational schools across the world. I said, your value add is your ability to deliver value and the ability to engineer value out of data, to uncover and apply the customer product and operational insights to the business. It isn't enough to just be able to build the models, because building models is going to become less and less important. So I think that that how we define data scientists today is going to become more commoditized. But I think what it means is the data scientists have an option. You can either continue to become, a research data scientist who is trying to build better and new models. You can veer into what I'll call data engineering or data management, where you're working on really trying to help improve the quality of data. We had Andrew Nang a few weeks ago or a month ago state that, he's trying to teach his ML engineers to spend less time tweaking models and more time fixing the broken data. But there's a third path, right? There's a third path, and that's about value engineering. And that requires an understanding of how does an organization define value? What are the KPIs and metrics against which you're going to measure value creation, progress, and success? So I do think how we look at data scientists today is going to change dramatically. But I think it's going to open up all kinds of other avenues for these folks to mature, transform, morph into.
Thanks, Bill. Kirk, as an astrophysicist, where do you take that? Where do you listen to John saying that it's going to be here to stay, and it's there's still a lot of worth and value within that context of a data scientist, and Bill saying it's going to get very narrowed into a research data scientist or specifics. but value engineering is the key. And engineering sounds like it's moving away from data science. It's moving more towards the business because it's got value on the front of it. So, Kirk, where do we go from there, from those two opposing opinions?
Well, this is already very stimulating. I'm trying to figure out where I fit in. I mean, John was the pro, Bill was the con, so that makes me a professional con, I guess. But so we'll see where that takes me. But anyway, I'm usually on the fence with things like this because I agree with arguments on both sides because because it is a complex system.
Need to side
okay.
Don't worry, I've got your back, Kirk. I've got your back.
I just found my partner in crime.
Oh my goodness, Bill.
Anyway, no, seriously.
You just need a bigger knife.
Oh my goodness, what is this, Rambo or something?
Yeah, baby. When I go hiking, I'm prepared. John's getting a real weapon. Now I'm really worried.
You call
Holy crap.
Crocodile Dundee.
You know,
Crocodile.
I'm missing out here. I'm missing out.
Okay.
A segue into boys and their toys. As somebody has quite rightly said. Chelsea Wilkinson, thank you very much for that.
Boy. Hear no evil.
Too many.
No evil. Am I supposed to answer a question or just tell?
Well, you're supposed to. Apart from not being intimidated by those two.
Yeah. No, I'm never.
Yeah.
They're cuddly teddy bears as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
I got grandkids. They attack me all the time, and I say, bring it on. I love it. When I'm rolling on the floor with them, it's the happiest day of my life. Anyway, so I on one hand, I always tell people that the two most important things in data science are the data and the science. And that is the data is the input, the fuel, that brings us value, brings us insights, brings us those two points of decision, right action, right decision. The data informs all of that. And for me, the science is the scientific process by we find out which data does that the best, which application is the best for this data. Does it work? How do we modify it? How do we refine it? So it's an experimental process. So what I mean by science is it's experimental. So machine learning itself is an experiment, right? Because there's always back propagation if you're doing machine learning, right? You build a model, you measure its performance, its accuracy, precision, whatever it is your metric is, and you give feedback to the model to change the features, the distribution of the features, the weights on the features. If it's a neural network, the weights on the edges and the nodes, all kinds of stuff like that. So there's always this back propagation of learning that makes science a scientific process. It's not dogmatic. And the other thing that makes it science is that more than likely it has a probabilistically correct answer. There is no necessarily right or wrong answer, which is maybe why I'm sort of equivocating between our two guys here. Is I don't want to come down hard on one side because I think it's the wrong thing to do. So I love this distinction between art and science, and I think there's distinction there, but they come together in so many ways. And one of the questions in the Q&A, Mark Paradis, hope you pronounce your name correctly, Paradis. I was just writing those words down as I saw the question come up. So, both scientists and artists are creative. They're curious, but also they're good communicators, and it's also a very human experience, right? It has to be deliverable and usable and consumable by people, both art and science. So there's intersections between art and science that make the two things not all that distinct as we'd like to think they are. But what grows out of all this conversation for me is sort of now the divergence. In the data professions, there's this new creation of new roles: platform engineers, analytics engineers, data strategists, data storytellers, data monetizers. I thought that would get a rise.
I think he's calling himself an insight monetizer right now.
Anyway, okay,
that's right. Yeah, I've had a change.
I love it. I'm all for it. I think what's going to happen is we're still going to have data science because you still need people to do the experimentation with what is the right data set? What are the right features? Is this the right performance? And you have to iterate on that. So what that requires for all those people, whether they're data scientists, data engineers, analytics engineers, strategists, whatever you want to call all these different people, I think for every person on the planet, there's commonality that you need to have data literacy, And I'm now saying data fluency. I'm trying to shift the data fluency.
I think that's the better word. Yep,
because it's not just you can recognize data when you see it, because I've given talks in data literacy, and it always starts with, do you recognize data when you see it? And I know that Bill's picked up on something which I've been using for a long time, is a receipt. There's so much information on a receipt, data about your products, your interests, where you bought, when you bought, what you bought, all kinds of stuff. So I bring that up in front of people who aren't familiar with this field, and I say, you're carrying data in your hand all the time. People are monetizing it, taking value from it. Why can't you do that? So that means that you need to have data relevance. That is realize the relevance of data in your life, in your job, in your profession. It doesn't mean you're going to be a data scientist, but you have to have literacy, some fluency, data relevance, and ultimately, what you really need, I think I'm gleaning from the sort of the various comments you've already heard, is you need to have not just domain expertise, but domain data expertise. That is, what's really important for a business is not that you know about data science, you know algorithms, you can push buttons on Python, Jupyter notebooks. It's that you understand the domain, but not just understand the domain, you understand the domain's data. Okay, so when Bill gets that question from a student, should they become data scientists? I think I would answer the question. Some of you, probably a tiny fraction of you, should become data scientists. If you have that scientist mindset, astrophysicist, I used to go in the early days, right after that sexiest job of the 21st century Harvard Business Review article, when I would go to data science conferences, I would swear at least 2/3 of the speakers on this stage, including myself, were PhD scientists, biologists, chemists, astronomers, physicists. A whole lot of physicists there. Yay for physics. Okay. We moved beyond the fact that you have to have a PhD in this stuff to do this stuff. I get it. And so there's going to be all kinds of automation, as John was talking about. There's going to be reactions to automation. But at the same time, you're not going to take the human element out of it. The UX, if you want to. What is going to be the user experience of what I deliver? And my closing point on this is, as I just want to say, I actually attended a data literacy workshop a few years ago where they're trying to define what a data literate workforce looks like. And it was at this Educational Development Corporation, EDC. They have an institute. You'll love this. It's the Institute for Massive Data or something like that. The big data, some beautiful word like that. So I can't even think of it off the top of my head right now. It'll come back to me. But there were like 12 of us in the room. Actually, it was 11 of us. It was the Oceans of Data Institute. It was the Oceans of Data Institute. So the Oceans 11, I called us. we had 11 people from all walks of life. I mean, there was people like me, scientists. We had journalists. We had one police officer who told it was a detective at the Minneapolis area police department. And the stories this guy told, but one of the most, just people from all kinds of different domains. But the most interesting thing I remembered from that day, besides a lot of the stories, was another story. This lady, she's a PhD biochemist, I believe. But anyway, she's the director of a cancer research institute at a West Coast university that I can't remember the name of, so I'm not going to guess. Anyway, she was a research professor and a director of a cancer research institute. And we were talking about having sort of like specific types of skills and aptitudes to do jobs in science and whatever. And she said the very best person she ever hired for her cancer research institute was an artist. And it just stunned me. And she said, but all of a sudden it made complete sense. She said this person had no clue about cancer research, no biochemistry background whatsoever. Yet this person was able to walk around, interact, talk with, communicate with the research scientists and actually help them and being creative in their process, and also making human consumable results from their research process. And that whole sort of human element, creative element, the curiosity, creativity, as we've been talking about, that communication element, all of which should exist in any successful person in the 21st century, and data literacy, fluency, relevance, part of that. So should everyone be a data scientist? No. Should somebody be? Yes.
If I could,
Kurt, you want to go, Bill?
No, John,
John, go ahead.
Okay. Kurt, you just touched on something that is so relevant. Bill and I, as I said, been doing this for 4 decades. When we first got together at Metaphor, we were a couple of the people that were out there talking about data ensembles and the bringing together of non-intuitive collections of information. And that has done nothing but gotten more and more important. And the touchstone of that comes from what Kurt's talking about, bringing in people who are artists, bringing in people who are not subject matter experts. In my day job at CSL Behring, my data scientists are math and data experts. We bring them together with subject matter experts, creative people. Our models are great, but they're not exceptional until we bring that artistic subject matter expert context to it. Then they become exceptional. What we're seeing now and what will happen in the future is that the leading companies are really using AI and advanced analytics and all sorts of math to move themselves further away from the general market. They're being successful. They are making money. They are changing industries. But those are small parts of the corporate landscape in each industry. Those are the people that understand that beyond just doing regular models on big data, you are going to have to start to move into this creative realm. In one of our applications, we have 7 different types of data coming into the modeling environment, and not much of it is internal data. It's the context we live in, it's the world we live in, it's drive time, it's temperature, it's weather, it's all sorts of stuff. And the people that look at that and poo-poo it are the people who are too parochial in their thinking. So not only is the data environment going to become much more complicated, much more integrated, much more artistic or eclectic, the model environment is going to be the same. So you're going to have a very rich integrated data layer, and you're going to have a very rich integrated model layer. Now, when I talk to the University of Michigan and talk to them about their School of Information program, the one thing that they have done is they've re-architected their introduction to Python programming class to be attractive to artists, liberal science majors, liberal arts majors, because their view is that if we can bring in that creative talent and they can understand and learn things like Python, we are going to end up with better data science in the future. So, the worlds of art and science, you talk to anybody who's an anthropology major over the last 40 years, this has been their life. Kurt has put his finger on something that is going to be one of the touchstones, the cornerstones of how leading companies drive data and analytics to be even more successful.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
So what Kirk and John just talked about convinces me even more that we are doomed from an AI perspective. and here's the reason why. Both of them talked about the power of creativity and nurturing curiosity. And we live in a society that does everything in its friggin' power to rub out curiosity. We go to standardized schools, take standardized tests, standardized curriculums. We go to standardized colleges. We go to a company and we have standardized work bands and pay bands and everything is friggin' standardized. We've taken everything that makes humans unique, the natural curiosity we're born with, and we've done everything in our power to friggin' rub that out. And all of a sudden, we expect them to be creative, to be innovative. When we've spent the last 20 years, 30 years, 40 years rubbing all of that out of them, which is why I think that the real challenge here is not our ability to build models. We can build models, data models, AI models, ML models. The real power is how do we empower the people who have the ideas, that natural curiosity. Make no mistake about it. You all know that I'm a big believer in design thinking. By the way, design thinking is not UI design. No, design thinking is a cultural way of how you look at empowering people. And design thinking seeks to really empower and unleash that natural curiosity that's in the front line of the organization, the customers who are either at the front line of the operations or the front line of customer engagement. But for that to happen inside of an organization, for an organization to really embrace that design thinking mindset, to unleash that creativity, means that management has to let go. They have to let go of some of their power and decision making and push it down to the organization, to the people who are actually in the front lines. This is doomed, not because we can't build models, not because we can't clean data, but we're just doomed because we have management organizations who refuse to let go of power. They've climbed into whatever their CX role is, and by golly, they are not going to give that up. And they think and believe they're the smartest person in the room, when in reality, when it comes to AI and learning and innovative thinking and design thinking, the people at the top of the pyramid are actually the least valuable person in the room.
So I guess
That's a big
Bill,
statement.
I guess what Bill is saying is that all that time that I spent in the principal's office for creating trouble, it was a good thing.
Well,
John, your problem was you went to the wrong institute. You, like me, went to the Institute of Silly Walks, not the Institute of,
or silly
of
dances.
Oceans of Data.
Wait,
crazy guys.
Wait, you've gone on me so many tangents here. Let me just say this about that. I am fully on board with what Bill's saying about education. I mean, I've been on record saying that I think unfortunately, specifically in science education, which I've focused on most of my life, that they just beat curiosity out of kids, right? It's rote memorization.
Yes.
I mean, if you can pass the test, you know, you can get the grade, and that somehow makes you, you know, a smart person. And I don't believe that at all. And so I for the longest time, when I started giving talks beyond my field of astrophysics, I started going to more sort of data science. Of course, they didn't call it back in those days. They were just AI and machine learning conferences. I would go to the KDDs and the SIAM-DMs. If you're IEEE, ICDMs, if you know any of those acronyms, you know the history of machine learning in the computer science field. I would go to these conferences, and I always, like, the first slide after my title slide, I would have a picture of a caveman coming out of the cave, right? And the caveman would look out there and see things in his environment. He would put names on things. He would start seeing connections and relationships between things. You know, like when it rains, the grass grows, all right? And but if, you know, if the rabbit eats the grass, you know, then the rain would flow and create a flood, right? And so you need rabbits. But if the fox comes along and eats the rabbit, whatever. So the first environmental scientist was a caveman who saw all these connections in nature, was curious and asking questions about it. And that's the reason to put that up there, not just because of the curiosity thing, which is tying back to what we're just saying now, but to tie that back to how did we end up in this world where we're overrun with data? And I say we got to this place because we're damn curious creatures. We ask questions, and so we seek evidence. That is, we collect data to answer those questions. As curious creatures, once you see that new evidence, you have new questions, all right? And so you go collect more data. And so the amount of data you're collecting is proportional to the amount of data you've already collected. That is the amount of insights and inquisitiveness inspired by the data. So the rate of growth is proportional to the amount you already have. And that's the very mathematical definition of an exponential growth curve. The rate of growth is proportional to the thing itself. That is an exponential growth curve. And that's how we got to the world of big data. When people talk about exponential growth, the doubling time, whether it's 1 year, 18 months, or 2 years, that's an exponential growth. And it's because we are damn curious, inquisitive people, and we need to not lose that in the process of churning out straight A students all the time. I'll just finish with one personal comment.
Sure. Go ahead.
Something that blew my mind. It's maybe not relevant to this conversation, and it may sound self-serving, and I'm serious here, but I want to say it because it just bothers me. When I was an undergraduate at LSU in physics, okay, I graduated from there a long time ago. Okay, over 45 years ago. Anyway, so when I graduated LSU, I was a straight A student. I got what was known as the University Medal. All right, I was the 27th person in the 120-year history of the university to get the University Medal for getting a straight A's. 20 years later, I met one of my former physics professors, an astronomer, at a conference. We were talking and just talking about things, and he was saying they just can't teach the way they used to teach. The students are prepared to come out of high school totally unprepared to learn anything for all those reasons we were just talking about. That sort of annoyed me. But what really annoyed me was a little while later, maybe 10 years later, I get one of my annual alumni newsletters from the department from which I graduated 40 years ago. And something like 25 physics majors all graduated in one of the smallest majors at a 27,000 person university, 27,000 student, one of the smallest majors. 25 of them graduated with straight A's and got the university medal in one semester.
Wow.
Now, either all these new students are just like
geniuses,
super Einsteins, or something is wrong.
Something's wrong.
And I'm not blaming that department. I mean, I was at the university teaching. I saw this. I give a student a B and they earned a B. They came to my office begging me for an A. And I said, you're going to thank me later that I gave you this B, because it's going to teach you some humility. It's going to teach you, to go back and learn better, to learn hard, and not just take the trophy. You have to earn this.
Yeah.
And the guy was upset with me. I said, I'm not going to change it, because it's just not, doesn't make any sense for me to change it just because you feel bad that I gave you a B.
Yeah. And you have to stick by your guns, and they learn from it. Like they will.
Anyway.
What a great story.
Listen, I'm going to go to some of the questions on the chat here. Gustavo Reyes has asked, what is the best advice that you can give to those who are still thinking that data is only exclusive to senior managers or finance, and why they should empower their staff to be using data analytics? So it sounds like that Gustavo is in that particular realm of where senior managers believe that no one else apart from them should be using it. Bill, go ahead.
Get a different job. I mean, if you're at a place,
I didn't want to say it, but if you're at a company where
senior management's not sharing data with its employees, you gotta run, don't walk, because that place is friggin' doomed. I mean, I can't think of anything that's ass backwards, John. I'm thinking back even in our metaphor days. I don't remember any company that's as backwards as that. Sorry.
What advice do you give to those damn senior managers who are sitting there saying it's mine and you can't have it? It's my precious.
It is
John?
my precious. Yeah, that's frightening.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I used to before John answers, I have to say that I used to have another graphic on my slides where I said we've always, this is back before the term data science became common. We always talked about data mining. And I had a slide, I said, we've always done data mining. Then I go to the next slide with a guy hugging his presents, and he said, the data are mine and you can't have them.
That is true.
Go ahead, John.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, we just worked through this in one of our business units where we built a management console that gave the senior managers all the information, predictive information about a forward look in the business. And then we had a conversation about who should have access to that. And, senior managers came back and said 5 of us. And I said, no, I think it's more like 500. And we went back and forth. And in the end, that my perspective won out. I said, look, we will cascade this down in the organization, and everybody should be able to see all the information.
What is the fear here? What was the fear for those senior managers, which I just don't understand?
This is what was brought forth.
Right.
Was that they were afraid that the managers would take the data, take it out of the tool, which of course they can, and they would put it into some other Excel or a Word document or an email, and they would send it to competitors. And I said,
it was only that. Okay.
And I said, well, then you've hired the wrong people.
Exactly.
That's an issue. I mean, if you think people are going to steal your data, if they are not working on behalf of the company, then they should be fired anyway.
Yeah.
If you have people in the organization who are working hard to make the organization better, they should have all the data they possibly can to do so. So we've done what Bill said. We've disseminated it deeply in the organization, but it had to be a dialogue.
Yeah. But at the same time, there's got to be some trust. There's got to be some acceptance. There is going to be leakage somewhere, but you're going to have to take that and, fight that when it happens, right? So there's always going to be something there.
I was truly serious about my answer.
Yeah. No, I know you were.
Let me explain why. Because if life is too short, why would you work in an organization where your management doesn't trust you? Why would you work anywhere? Why would you have friends?
But I think why would you have friends? I'm not too sure about that, Bill. But
who don't trust you? Who don't trust you, right? If they don't trust you, why have them?
I think there are many organizations that are still stuck in that very command and control, protocol. But listen, Bill, not everybody has got that view, right? They come from a very rigid background. They have very rigid principles, governance, etc. They may be regulated. So there's a really huge, big push for those senior managers to have control. It happens in many organizations. It's not just what Gustavo is talking about. So I think that kind of trust, and data has proliferated everywhere, and they haven't caught that train. They haven't sat down and considered what data can do for them and what data can do for others. And I think that's the command and control structure that they are still working within the context of, I need power, I need to have my precious or my presence or whatever it is. And those people will never learn. They will only get so far, and they will see the door very soon. You know,
they will never learn.
Yes, they will never learn. Yeah.
So when I was in sales, which I was in at Metaphor for a while, I remember that I read a book that said, when you're trying to sell to somebody, people are in four modes. If they're in growth mode, help them grow. If they're in trouble mode, help them get out of trouble, because those are two modes that people have propensity for action. The two modes you want to watch out for are even keel and overconfident, because there is no propensity for action. And you don't want to try to sell or transform those organizations. Life is too short. If you work with an organization,
you're right, Bill. You're right. Hold on one second. I've just had a Q&A from Mark, and Mark Paradise this time. He says, I agree, Bill, but what are some ways to identify if a company is truly open with data before you take the job? What are some of the key questions there?
That's a great question, right?
Yeah.
So I'll take it first and I'll pass to John. So we actually talk about this with my students. What do you look for, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I like to look for, first thing is you can look at their annual reports and sort of things and see how they talk about data. Are they freely sharing their numbers and et cetera? Now, in the world of social media, I would find people who work at the company. And then for most it's not hard to find one or two linkages away of somebody who's worked there and ask them about how free are they would share their data. Also, how open are they to ideas from others? Because to me, that's where I want to work. I want to work at a place where everybody's ideas are worthy of consideration, where everybody has got the same sort of power. So I think as a student, you can sort of make some investigation. And guess what? You are going to make the wrong decisions. You're going to go someplace and realize, God, this place is the wrong place to go. I'm going to milk it for as long as I can. But eventually you want to go someplace, at least for me, I want to go someplace where I can put my fingerprints all over the organization. So I know I can make shit happen. And sometimes, anyway, John, go ahead. John.
I think that's good. Sorry, John, before I bring you in, can I just bring Kirk in for a second? Kirk, in your tenure experience and you educate people as well as working in industry and so on. What has been the most ideal place that you've worked at, which has had an ethic of transparency, of collaboration, of the ability to think beyond themselves? Are there types of companies like that, or do you see that it's always a struggle?
Well, I don't have a lot of different kinds of experience. I mean, a lot of experience. I have a lot of different kinds of experience. I mean, I tell people, so in my career, I've worked at a research institute at a university. I worked at a national lab for a federal government agency. I worked for small companies, big companies. I was a university professor, and now I'm working at a startup. So my wife said, "Gee, my wife says to me, gee, you've had many careers." And I said, "No, I've only had one career as a scientist. I've just had many different jobs." But I have to say that of all those places I've been, the place that sort of makes the most sense, giving people access to data and tools, and actually made it happen, was at the management consulting firm that I worked at for 6 years. And I'm not going to throw a company.
Yeah, you don't need to say the name. That's fine.
But in management, but in consulting, I mean, in a sense, you're a client, even though you have a boss. You're, in a sense, your real client. Your real boss is the client, right? And so you need access to the data. You need access to the tools to deliver for that client. And one thing I loved about that organization is that even the most junior people in the organization had a seat at the table in those discussions.
Yep.
I mean, there's always there's the people who are in all organizations that want to be the hippo, right? The highest paid, the highest paid person, the highest paid person's opinion, right? So beware the hippo. So, that's everywhere. I'm not saying it's unique to any place. It's a kind of thing that happens. But at this place, because we're delivering for a customer, a client. So in data science, I don't know. I would just encourage people, if they're junior people and they're wondering where to start there, because you'll work on a lot of different projects. You'll learn a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
You'll learn a lot of different tools. You'll work with a lot of different other people's skill sets.
And you'll work long hours, and it's bloody hard, but it's very fulfilling.
But you learn so much because we were. I mean, I was talking with clients at the U.S. Navy one day, and a major oil corporation the next day, and I was working with a fighter pilot training at the Pentagon the next day. I mean, it was just like all kinds of stuff, and the coolest thing, like I said, I mean, the most junior person in the group had a seat at that table, and with the 4-star, 3-star general, and that I mean, that was to me the epitome of let's democratize decision make. There's one person who has to make the decision. I get that. We're not delegating decision making, but we are
But the Japanese have been doing that for years.
We're democratizing insights discovery. And I'll stop with that statement.
Yeah, John, let's have a quick roundup from you, and then I'm going to go to another question.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting that, the question is, how do you assess if an organization is open before you join them? It's fairly easy, especially in this day and age. Ask, can people work remotely? Do people need to be in the office? Do people need to move? I mean, if your boss is telling you everybody's got to relocate, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
And if your boss is telling you that I need to know where you are all the time, I need to know what project you're working on, I need to understand your updates every noon and 5 p.m. every day, that goes beyond those questions. Mm-hmm. That indicates a culture of retention, control, and micromanagement. And that will permeate. In one of my MBA classes, it was Great Books, Man and Society. And the one thing that I learned from that professor was that whoever you are at work is the same person you are at home. And those people cannot let go. You just have to ask a few very simple questions. And if they answer with a command, control, constrained view, they're going to be that way in you're going to be that way in your review. They're going to be in that way when they give you raises. They're going to be in that way when you ask to take vacation. So
Agree.
It's very simple to understand.
So I'm going to ask a different question here, mainly because of the word that somebody used, democratization. And these are questions that have been mailed into me previously before the actual discussion today. So many people talk about the democratization of AI. The big players developed amazing tools, and that's great. Personally, I am more favorable to the professionalization of AI. What do the guests think about these two visions? Do you want me to repeat that question?
Yes, please.
Many people talk about the democratization of AI. The big players, and I'm assuming the technology firms, have developed amazing tools, and that's great. But personally, Ariel Sedola, who sent in the question, he's more favorable to the professionalization of AI. What do guests think of these two visions? And by the professionalization of AI, I'm assuming that means having that as a fundamental certification or profession that is actually accredited, like an engineer or a lawyer or something like that. What is it, just tool sets, or do we need to have a basis of the fundamentals of a profession that's quite, John, go ahead.
I don't think that those are diametrically opposed. I think that you can have both. I think you can have, as Kurt's been talking about, you can have PhD scientists and physicists who are great modelers and very professional in what they do. You can also take those models and inject them into production systems that have user interfaces in a way that democratizes access to them. What we try to do on a day in and day out basis, not only in my day job, but in my previous jobs, is build very professional, very robust, very accurate and precise models that are accessible by broad ranges of people with user interfaces that control how they manipulate those models and then use them in their daily work. So I don't think professionalization and democratization are are against each other or work in different directions. I think they are actually complementary, and I think we need both.
I think absolutely. I want to just use cybersecurity as an example, because there are cybersecurity certifications, professional certifications, but every single person in an organization needs to practice safe cyber hygiene. I mean, every person needs to have an awareness, literacy, fluency, at least that literacy minimum of best cyber practices. And so data democratization is about that ability of everyone. And the way I like to say it is, I steal a slogan from the New York subway system. If you see something, say something, right? Everyone who's in the organization who has legitimate access, I'm not saying go sneaking around. If you have legitimate access to some data and you see something interesting that can help your business or inform your business about something, say something. Don't say to yourself, oh, it's not my job. If you see something, say something. All right, so that's data democratization. Everyone has the power and authority and responsibility that if you see something that's going to help our business, keep us out of trouble, maybe it's a compliance issue, a safety issue, who knows what? I mean, it's a risk issue, or maybe it's just an insight that's going to deliver a new value to customers or whatever. Say, if you see something, say something. That's democratization. But you still need, just like in the cybersecurity realm, there will be, especially in AI, when there's so much concern about trust and ethics in AI. I think we're destined to have an AI certification profession. AI certified profession, because of the concerns about compliance and risk and all the regulations coming down from Europe and other countries about ethical practice. That's going to be the chief risk officer in companies. If they're not already have AI at the top of their agenda, they're in big trouble if they're not already doing that.
Thanks, Kirk. Bill, quick note on that, or
yeah. I love the word professionalization of AI. I find that very provocative, because it got me thinking about, when you say the word professional, what do you mean? Right. Well, yeah, there's certifications and there's trainings, and you got a plaque you can put on the wall that says you have all the proper things that you've done. But being a professional also is constitutes that you're best at game, right? If you're a professional, you're the best at what you do, which means you have to have sort of an attitude of constant investigation, trying, exploring, continuously learning, adapting, and sharing. There is something about professional that is.
And you can't do that without being a professional. I mean, if I'm an artist,
you can be a professional, but there are, you could be LeBron James, or you could be Toby Kimball. It's your choice which one you want to be, right?
You always choose American sports on me, don't you?
Sorry, man. So but being a professional versus being an amateur, think about the differences, right? There are really good amateurs out there but that professional is the next level. People who have been classified best at game, right? And
the MVP.
Yeah, but it's being a professional is there's a different set of standards that you're held to, different set of rules and regulations, different set of expectations about you. If you're an amateur, you're okay if you're just okay. But if you're a professional, you're supposed to be the best. I love the idea that the professionalization of AI.
All right, well, that's a good one. Bill likes that, and we're going to trumpet that one later on. But just leading on to another question that I had from Long Fei Lu. And I think Long Fei wants to really understand, wants to know what's the best and highest international data science certificate that can be approached in the market. Long Fei says that, I don't know whether it's a he or a she, I'm sorry, or already has a data science certificate from Microsoft and IBM, but this is not very common in Germany. They've heard about the Principal Data Science Certificate of Data Science Council of America. Is this one of the highest certificates in the market? I don't know, but I'm just sending that out to you guys. Is there something that is the pinnacle, because we're on this subject?
Personally, I don't know of any gold standard in certifications. As she's already commented on Microsoft and IBM, and there's so many out there. All the major universities have taken their data science curriculum and put it on Coursera and Udemy and all the other online classes. So I don't know, maybe Kurt, maybe Bill do. I don't know the gold standard.
Okay, Kurt, go ahead.
Well, there's the Informs CAP, the Certified Analytics Professional, and they do have a exercise book. If you look at that, it's pretty much a lot of what we would call just normal data analytics, data science. Okay, and so I've spoken at Informs conferences, and for the longest time they were really very focused, and as they should be as a profession, on optimization, which is a mathematical field, and they're coming more into data science. So that's one place. The CAP. Certainly in business analytics and like that's a very recognized
certified analytics professional.
And I get drawn into many different committees that are trying to create data science certifications at university level, national level, government agency. Like I get pulled onto panels all the time, and very long questionnaires and very long Zoom calls, discussion, every bullet point in the questionnaires of should this be required? Should that be required? Is this an expertise or an aptitude or a skill? Oh my gosh. And there's been a lot of reports coming out of that, but I don't think that anything has actually finally come to a focus that here is the sort of the certificate proposed. There is no certification, but there's not even a proposed certification.
Okay.
But there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of great thoughts have gone into some of that.
Okay. Quick one, Bill. And then we move on swiftly.
How come you always say quick when you say Bill?
Well,
is this
I don't know.
To the fact that I can't say
you know what?
Short? This is like a third
I'm
time
just going to be that way to you today, Bill, because you're looking
right.
far too sharp. And I thought with my big shirt was going to look sharper than you.
Sorry, man. So this is going to be really off the track here, and that's why I'm almost afraid to ask it, because I could. But certifications to me are just a check the box kind of thing.
Yeah.
As Kirk had mentioned earlier, the challenge a lot of organizations is rote memorization, and to a certain extent, a lot of certifications are you learn something, you memorize it, you check the box, but it's always in the application. Whenever I'm looking to hire somebody, I like to see what people have done, not what certifications they have. What have you done in what situations? Explain your story. And I got to tell you something that I direct a lot of my students towards, who are really trying to gain lots of experience and are worried about going to a big organization and being stuck in the prairie dog, cubicle farm. Look at nonprofits. Take a look at working at a nonprofit. You will go there and you will have a huge room of experience to expand into. These nonprofits who are dying for people who understand data and analytics, who can talk to the business, who understand design thinking sort of things. If you go to a place like that to start your career, I love the consulting approach. I did the same thing with Arthur Andersen. I started in consulting and learned a ton there. But I think if you really want to get some really hands-on experience that you can then use to market yourself for jobs going forward, look at nonprofits, look at government agencies you can go into, and really some of these places you can get involved and expand in all kinds of different areas. So to me, that's more important than certification.
Okay, thanks. Listen, what I'm going to do now is just do a quick book giveaway. So everybody get ready at your keyboards, not the three of you. Okay. The first book giveaway, and I'm going to make sure that everybody's ready for this, is, oh my goodness, is Bill's book. And I'll keep it quick. I'll keep it quick, Bill, and short. Oh my goodness.
That's
I tell you, you guys are, this is too much.
Here's the question.
Today.
What's this line from? Let's party, Bennett.
So, okay, the first three people to answer this question will win Bill's book. What is Bill otherwise known as?
Can't be a swear word.
Ooh, that's it. Done. Okay, I've got Amwil, I've got Larry, and I've got, oh no, Blaze, sorry, and I've got Chris. Sorry, Blaze. Yes, his name is Schmarzo, but he's not generally
no one
known
could,
as the dean of big data.
Yeah,
But
no
other things, he's known by other things by John and myself, but we won't bring those up. Okay, thank you so much. I have there is a question that came up in the chat, which has come from Amwil. And oh my goodness, John, don't worry, your book's coming up soon. Gee. So this actually is it complements a question I was going to ask, and the question I wanted to get to is Andrew and G very recently spoke about data-centric AI instead of model-centric AI, and Amwil is asking, how can you recognize which data will be able to provide good insights to users? So from a data science perspective, Andrew Ng is saying it's no longer model centric. We've got to really look at the data. He's done various studies around, improving data, the quality, the efficacy by very marginal percentages that has uplifted his curves and his algorithms and so on for revenue or cost efficiencies. So how do you take those two views, and which one would you lean more towards? And therefore, how do you know that it's, as Amol says, how do you recognize which data you need? So John, go ahead.
It's never been model centric. The only people that think it's model centric are the technology people. It's always been data centric. And that gets back to what we talked about earlier. When Bill and I were building databases for Procter and Gamble and Kraft and Pillsbury and Miles Labs and all those people, it was always data centric. And now when we move into advanced analytics, and the reason we were talking about creativity, and Kurt, is talking about this too, is that the feature engineering is what's the most important part of it. You can go ahead and have 7,000 columns of data, but you need to have someone who's very creative and intelligent figure out which 20 or 2 or 3 or 10 are the really important ones that are going to build a useful and valuable and robust and precise model. It's never been model centric.
I'll be short. Garbage in.
I didn't say that, out. Bill. I never said be short this time.
That's it. That's all
I'm going to find
an
implement as well somewhere. I'm going to need, okay, garbage in, garbage out. Absolutely.
I second. I second all those comments, Bill's and John. I mean, truly feature engineering, feature exploration. I frequently talk about one of the first steps in the data science. Well, everyone talks about data prep and data profiling. I talk about data profiling a lot, which is exploring your data to see what all the features are, sort of what are the ranges of the variables, what are they, what data types there are. And so I've written blogs on this. I call it having your first date with your data. Okay, so data profile. So I encourage my students to have their first date with their data, get up in person with it, find out. And I think back in my very early days, after I got my PhD in astrophysics, I went working for the Hubble Space Telescope Science Institute at Johns Hopkins University. And I was put in front of a database. The junior member of the team, I didn't know what a database was. That was 1985. Banks had databases. No one else had databases in 1985, but financial institution. Well, anyway, certainly not in astrophysics. Anyway, so I started learning some SQL and some SQL queries. And so I became proficient at it. So it was part of my job to create reports for NASA headquarters of how the telescope was being used, which science instruments are being used, what were the science projects. But more interesting was how many different, how was the use of the telescope distributed across the United States? All right, this was $6 billion of American taxpayer dollars at work. They wanted to be sure that there was an equitable distribution of access to the telescope, not just to the Ivy League schools or the Caltechs of the world, right? They wanted to see that distribution. So I learned how to do a query, says, do a select count by state, distinct.
You didn't.
And so I counted how many distinct states there were and how many scientists were using the telescope by state. And when I did this report, I discovered there were 93 states in the United States.
Oh my goodness!
Now, we've known that for a long time. Fake election.
So,
that's why it's fake election.
There's a big lesson. There's a big lesson about data quality here, right? So when I saw that, I said, "What?" And then I realized, of course, that every time the state was spelled a different way, and there's a lot of misspellings: Mississippi, New York, uppercase, lowercase, Massachusetts. And don't even get me started with Connecticut or Connecticut or whatever it's called. So I realized that every one of those to a database is a distinct thing, right?
Yeah.
So I learned a lesson about data quality, but the very most important lesson I learned there is the only reason that I knew there was something wrong is because I knew the answer wasn't 93. So if your job in the company is to measure the revenue by distinct product category in the business, and you give a report that says here are the 17,000 distinct product categories and how much sold last year, and the VP of sales says, hell, we only have 12,000 products. How can you have 17,000 on your report?
Something's wrong.
Because if you don't know what the right number is, you better find someone who does. All right. So
And
so
here's the
it's not
thing.
just not knowing the technology skill, typing in SQL. I had
Mhm.
to have some domain expertise to know something was wrong with the data.
You've got to understand the context. You've got to
Right.
understand the business. You've got to understand that data within the business. And you mentioned it earlier on. Scott Taylor's asked a question here. Why is there so much munging and wrangling? Munging and wrangling. I mean, those are the munging term. Munging. Okay. Why don't data scientists work with data management peers instead? I'm sure they are, but I'm sure there's hundreds and hundreds of years of bad data, and many, and I'm going to say it, Scott, many old MDM projects that have been attempted to be in. But so what's the response? What do you think?
The reason is because 80% of the job of a data scientist is cleaning and prepping data, right? But data scientists really love that other 20%. That other 20% is spent complaining about data preparation.
I love that. I love that. I love that.
Never mind.
Okay.
Good question, Scott. Sorry for the joke.
Bill?
Yeah, I think Scott's point is right on. We need to figure out how to bring together data management, data science. The whole linkage between data and data science. By the way, both Kirk and John have talked about the importance of features, right? Features I believe, is that key linkage point between traditional data management and what we would now consider traditional data science. And we haven't really built a really strong team there as much as we should.
Isn't data ops supposed to get above that and bring all of those disciplines together?
Isn't data
from
what?
your data ops? From your data engineers to your data scientists to data quality analysts and so on. I mean, they all should be working within an ecosystem that explores that issue.
What is data ops?
It defines how we build those pipelines for the delivery of data.
Hey, Bill, it's the same thing as DevOps, ML.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just another word, right?
That's another word.
Let me jump in here for
I
a second.
personally say
go on, John. Go for it, John.
It's the agile process of feature engineering in my mind.
Go for it, John.
ML ops is agile process and ML modeling. Anyway, that's just my distinction.
Yeah, one of the problems, and Scott, this when you ask the question, is that the different layers of data in the ecosystem, the transactional, the reporting, the interactive dashboarding, the analytics, all those different layers have different architectures. And when we get to modeling, my group, we don't use the word agile because I just can't use that word. It makes me choke whenever I say it, but we're very nimble. We have people coming to us on a daily basis and asking us, hey, what's the price elasticity of this donor base? MDM will never catch up, will never keep up with what the analytics professionals are doing. The MDM people are aiming at a static goal or some kind of utopia in cleaning up data that will never be achieved.
Never be there.
That's why we don't link with the data management professionals, because we have to clean the data and structure it almost differently for every advanced analytic project. If we waited for the MDM people to get their job done, we'd never do anything.
Yep, agreed. I'm going to do a quick book giveaway. So everybody, again, get ready, because we're getting to the 6:50. Well, my time, 15 past the hour. So here we go. This is for John's book. Pay attention.
John, you got to bring your.
Why do you bring your knives and your axes out? I mean, this is
John,
very
bring your
strange.
weapon back up. We've been asked to show off our weapons. There you go. Everybody's got their weapons.
Oh, is that what somebody said? Oh my.
Yeah, they want to take a picture of our weapons. Come on.
Yeah, I'll give you one of these.
Bennett.
I tell you,
there's my weapon.
Yeah, I love that. I love the Russian dolls. I got some of those.
I like the duck.
Yeah, humor.
All right,
humor always disarms your opponent.
Yes,
humor
it does.
Always disarms your
Unless they're carrying a really big knife.
That's very funny.
Crocodile Dundee.
Okay. So for John's book, which company does John work for?
Did John work?
4. Yeah.
Does John work?
Yeah, well.
Well, we know what you're saying.
You and I've been asking that question for decades.
Well, I always say I would have quit work years ago, except it's the only place I get any sleep.
Oh, we've got. Apparently, you work for POTUS. Oh
There
my
you
goodness.
go.
POTUS. It's all right. We've got three
That's
CSL
a
bearings.
joke, by the way. Hey, boss out there, that was just a joke.
So we've got
That
we
was
got
just a-
projector, we got Chris Cormley, and we got projector twice, and Andrea Timberlake. So we've got three winners. Thank you so much for that, and I'll get to the next question. Something you mentioned earlier, Bill, was value engineering. Somebody has asked, what skills do you need for value engineering?
So the most important skill to be a good value engineer is you have to be humble, right? What I mean by that is you have to be willing to have a conversation with people who are in a different part of the organization to really understand how they create value, right? It's a lot of exploration, a lot of understanding, maybe some good finance background is really useful, right? But the real trick is, do you have the right attitude for people to work with people to understand how they identify and create value? Do you have that ability to explore with them? And I don't joke about this being humble. I think my absolute best data scientists are humble as they come. They're clearly the smartest people in the room. It's like Kirk, right? And I'm in the room with Kirk. He's the smartest person in the room easily. But he's a very humble person in how he asks questions, how he engages with people.
Mm-hmm.
You don't for a minute feel like he's lording that over you. And I think that's become really critical in value engineering, is you can't think for a second you're smarter than the person across the room. You have to really be there in a sense. I'm trying to understand how your organization makes money, how do you create value, and what are the KPIs and metrics against which you're going to measure progress and success. So again, finance background is great. Some understanding economics is also really good, but being able to ask questions and then hold a conversation with somebody to understand how they create value is indispensable.
Great. Okay.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. Right. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do another book giveaway, and then we're going to do a quick fire round of questions. We're going to do a lightning round of questions, and all of you have about 15 seconds, and I'll be timing it. So whoever doesn't goes over the 15 seconds, I'm going to send one of these to you. And there's a little button in there which is going to go boom. No, not really. Anyway, I think Kirk's got the red button. Okay.
I want the duck.
Yeah, no, he's got a no button. Okay. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So, all right, for the next book giveaway, it's kindly I've forgotten the name of the guy. I'm really sorry about this, but Data Analytics Made Easy. That is the name of the book. And I'll get the author in a second. My apologies. Right, to the first three people, obviously, again. Name the various tools used for data analytics. Whoever can name 4 will win. Oh my goodness, this is going to be a good one. I'll be easy on some of you. Don't worry. So the question was, name the various tools used for data analytics.
Here's
okay,
one.
Gustavo, Gus has come in with a good one. Now that's an 8-ball.
Magic 8-ball. It tells you the answer right here. Ask the question.
Oh, it does. Yeah, it probably says, "Be quiet, Bill."
The book is by Andrea DeMauro.
Oh, that's right. Thank you, Kirk. I had it in my email. I was trying to find it. Okay, we've got 3 winners. We've got We've got Gus, we've got Eric, and we've got Projector. Okay, brilliant. In fact, Projector, yeah. Okay, we'll come back to that. All right, I have some other questions which are probably very quick fire questions. Right, and so we've got another 10 minutes. Oh yes, there it is. And we've got one more book giveaway at the end. So how do data scientists know which algorithm to use? Go, Kirk.
Trial and error.
Okay, John.
Exploratory data analysis.
Bill.
Network with your cohorts to find out what they've used in similar situations.
Awesome. What makes a good data scientist, Bill?
Humility.
John?
Curiosity and humility.
Kirk? Don't say those 2 again.
create a experimentation mindset.
Experimentation mindset, like that. Okay. How do you think like a data scientist without going to the ones that you just mentioned? How do you think like one, which is a bit strange? John.
I think you start out with a thesis. You have an idea, you have an opinion. Then you start to, go through the data and modify that opinion based on what you find in the data. You consult with people who are your peers. You also bring in other people who may have a different viewpoint, and then you bring in subject matter experts.
Kirk, go for it. Seeing as Bill's gone to get a book so he can read from it.
The question is how to think like a data scientist. Right?
Yes.
I would say think probabilistically, which basically means a term I learned from statistical thinking world, and that is you have a tolerance for ambiguity. That is, there is no absolute right or wrong answer. And that you can be thinking like a data scientist when you realize there's a probabilistic answer, but not necessarily a one single right answer.
Thank you. And Bill?
I'd say both what John and Kirk have said, and then read the book.
Yay.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Thinking
There
like a
we
data scientist. What they said is exactly spot on.
Okay.
If there's one person in the world I give permission to hawk his books at any time, and that's Bill.
What type of
and John. That's two people.
Kirk,
okay.
I think you're off the list now. He's wielding his sword again, or at least his Rambo knife. What type of training does a data scientist need to go through? John.
Well, you could start in all sorts of different directions. We've talked about people being liberal arts majors. We've talked about people being computer scientists, physicists. Anybody can be a data scientist as long as they're interested in the field and want to do the work.
Okay. Kirk?
I would say build some data literacy, however you do that. I mean, work in some kind of data lab, data profession, data experience with other people, but just build data literacy. And from there, when you start seeing patterns in data, you're curious. That's how I do it with students. I just show it to them and then they get curious. How is that? Well, what's this trend? What's that correlation? It just flows from just that first experience with just seeing interesting patterns in data, just like the caveman coming out of the cave.
Bill?
If you can find their passion, whether it be sports or music or art or something, and show them how data is involved in that helps to personalize it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's awesome. That is awesome, actually. And just Chris has asked a question. What advice do you have for a junior at UW-Madison who is studying computer science and data science? Kirk.
Well, I haven't been to Madison for years, so invite me to talk to your class.
It's always a plug somewhere.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
Okay, John.
I've always told undergraduates, and maybe it's too late for you, Chris, but take heavy loads in the first freshman and sophomore years, and then get out of the school you're in, take some astronomy classes, take some history classes, take some, creative writing classes, expand your horizons, don't just sit there and hammer away at the hard sciences, get out and learn some other things about life.
Bill?
Design thinking. Spend some time, embrace design thinking as a way to empower how you think and how you empower others you work with.
Okay. Is design thinking the same as critical thinking?
Nope. Very different.
Okay. Explain the difference. Somebody's asked that question.
Design thinking is a methodology or a mindset for how you really get the most out of people, how you embrace ideation, how do you leverage empathy as to understand what your customers are trying to accomplish. Critical thinking is the ability, to be stuck in a very difficult, have to make a difficult decision, a limited amount of data, and how do you process that data in a way that helps you create an informed decision. Okay,
cool. I'm going to do another quick book giveaway, and I have got the name of the author this time round, and this book that's going to be given away is where's the name now?
David.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I've lost it again. I've lost it. Oh my goodness.
Not till Samir speaks it out loud. I don't know what it is. I can't.
I know. No.
You know the guy's name's David. I'm sure.
David, yes.
Sure
So
you can look up his
cleaning
profile.
data for effective data science. That's the name, and his first name is David. I can't find the surname.
David
for those
Mertz.
Mertz, that's it, David
yes,
Mertz.
yes.
Cleaning data for effective data science. Here's the question for those people. Thank you so much, Kirk. You're far more better prepared than I am today.
No, it's
Here
just
we go.
smartphones.
Here's the question. I switched mine off, unfortunately. Here's the question. I didn't ever want it to get disturbed. Okay, cleaning data for effective data science. Here's the question. Which step in the data analytics process is the most important?
Oh, I'm not supposed to answer.
Not for you, John.
Turning on your computer. Nice guy.
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay, we've got we've got we've got Gus, who's won.
DJ's on fire
and-
today.
Oh my
There's a
goodness.
lot of good ones on here.
And Vijay,
Can't argue with Scott Taylor.
Vijay, Gus, and Gus twice. Oh my goodness. Well,
Give it to-
Scott
give it
would
to
come up with
projector.
turning on your computer, wouldn't he? Okay. Okay, I'm gonna give it to Chelsea just because she said that was a good one, linking it to the business problem. That's fine. That's what I like. Okay, cool. I think I'm gonna go back to one last question, which was in the chat. Where is it? Okay, it's by Andrea Timberlake. And it's not clear what a data scientist is anymore for several reasons. Here are two, and it's probably an observation. I feel that the roles of the data practitioners need to be rewritten, redefined, because they are confusing unless you work in one of those roles, hopefully, smiley face. People talk about working with AI as if it's something really easy. Clubhouse is full of such people who actually brag about becoming AI experts without having any engineering background. So I guess data practitioners has become too wide. We need to redefine and take stock of what's happening and why it's become so broad as a discipline. So from that, what do you think? Why isn't it clear what a data scientist is anymore, John?
We only have 3 minutes, so thank you,
Yep.
Samir, Kirk, and Bill. Really had a great time. Thank you very much. Data science
you,
is
John.
a team. Data science is a team sport. It has become a team sport over the last 3 to 5 years. You need data engineers. You need feature engineers. You need machine learning engineers. You need UI, UX developers. You need application developers. All those people are in the food chain, making these applications realistic and accessible to end users. That's why it's confusing. People think, you've got a data scientist and they do it all. That's not the case.
That's not the case. Yep. It's the ecosystem. Yep. Go ahead, Bill.
Very quickly, I'd add the reason why it's so hard to define is because it's constantly changing. We're in a very much a learning mode. Data has become the world's most valuable resource. And because of that, we're seeing a lot of transformation happening. So the way we defined a data scientist 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the way we define it today and the way we define it 3 years from now is going to be different.
Great. Thanks. And Kirk, final word on that?
Well, I think the real Bill just hit the head on the nail, or net on the hail, one of the two. Because at the dawn of the revolution, I would say that go back to that Harvard Business Review sexiest data scientist paper. Back then, we called everything a data scientist, whether you're a data engineer or an analytics professional or a data storyteller or a database person. And now we're getting more clever or precise in how we define roles: data engineering, machine learning engineer, data strategist, data monetizer, insights discoverer, whatever. Right. Anyway, so I think that I think the role of the data scientist is becoming, for me personally, get more sharply focused on that scientific experimental mindset around data. So I still think that role will exist. It's just that there's all these other roles which we mistakenly call data scientists, and they're not data scientists. So I think we're actually putting a better name on what people actually do.
Thank you very much. I wanted to thank the three of you. Thank you so much, Kirk, for your time, John and Bill. It's been fantastic as always. Thank you to everybody and the tip of the hat. Next time I'm going to wear a hat for sure. I wanted to wear a medallion, Bill, but I couldn't find one. thank you to everyone who was who attended today, sent in your questions, your thoughts and observations. Thank you so much. You've been fantastic. And watch out for the next installment of this AMA series, when John and Bill and I will be we'll have another special guest for another cool topic. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Take care.
Samir. Great job. Enjoy Slovenia.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Have
Bye,
a great
everybody.
weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bert.
Bye-bye.
Slovenia, Slovenia.
You are so funny.